Alan is a certified broke bozo and an idiot loser who fumbled his final exam for his dream job at the royal court and can't even pay for his train. But one day, a rich noble family decides this budget wizard is good enough to tutor their useless daughter, who can't even cast a single spell. While traveling north by train, Alan writes to his girlfriend Lydia, announcing his exile after flunking the royal mage exam like a chump. He remembers how shocked his professor was, especially since Alan had no clue why he failed, probably because he didn't kiss the exam's magical ass hard enough. With no money to return home, Alan was about to enter his sad boy arc. The professor praised his selflessness for supporting his family, but urged him to think of his own future too. He then offered Alan a temporary, well-paid tutoring job. His old friend, Duke Howard, needed someone to teach his daughter Tina until spring. Surprised but grateful, Alan accepted. The professor made the arrangements, calling Alan the brightest student he'd ever had. Alan, recalling his last tutoring gig for a noble girl, worried this might be similar. The professor handed him a first-class train ticket, and Alan immediately smelled side quest energy. Snapping back to the present, Alan finishes his letter as the train pulls into a freezing northern city, where he begins his search for Duke Howard's mansion. Graham, Duke Howard's head butler, welcomes Alan alongside Ellie, a maid in training. After introductions, they head to the carriage. Graham jokingly suggests Ellie sit on Alan's lap due to limited space, flustering her. Alan declines, but Ellie insists she's fine with it and they board. Alan notices the ribbon on Ellie's head and thick snowfall outside. Graham explains they'll be indoors for days due to the cold. Seeing Ellie shiver, Alan lends her his scarf and casts a warming spell, impressing her. At the mansion, Ellie struggles to get out of the carriage, so Alan carries her, further embarrassing her. He then apologizes to Her Highness, revealing he figured out she's the Duke's daughter based on her outfit and behavior. Flustered, Ellie runs off. Graham admits she wanted to greet Alan personally and apologizes. Inside, the house is warm, and the real maid, also named Ellie, rushes over, nearly trips, but Alan catches her. Graham scolds her for running again. Alan isn't upset, he's actually relieved she's okay and lightly teases her, making her flustered. Graham thinks Alan matches the professor's description. When Alan asks what was said, Graham replies the professor called him unnatural with young girls. Alan denies it, saying he's just used to being around kids. He then visits Duke Howard's office, thanks him for the job, and introduces himself. Howard welcomes him, saying the professor spoke highly of him and that he's eager to see what Alan can do. Alan is stunned to learn he's there to train Tina, Howard's daughter, for the Royal Academy. Howard quickly clarifies he actually wants Alan to talk Tina out of attending. He explains the Howard family once ruled the northern lands as one of the 4 great ducal houses, loyal to the crown for generations. But after his wife died, he raised his daughters alone. The eldest, Stella, got into the academy, but he doubts she'll uphold the family's magical legacy. Tina, on the other hand, has mana, but can't cast any spells, and even experts don't know why. Alan is surprised, but Howard insists that Tina's sense of duty makes her fit to study magic and combat, despite other possible futures. Alan was curious about the paths ahead, but Howard insisted he see for himself. They entered the flower room, where Tina had been experimenting with cultivation techniques from her late wife's books. Howard considered her research valuable to the duchy and encouraged her to continue. Alan began to grasp the professor's intentions, but Howard emphasized Tina had to find her own path and master magic before entering the Royal Academy. He assured Alan he would support her and made a promise. Alan noted she had mana but couldn't use magic, which intrigued him. At dinner, Howard celebrated Alan's arrival and explained that servants dined together as a tradition. Alan appreciated this. Tina and Ellie joined them and Howard introduced them. Alan mentioned he met Ellie during a freezing carriage ride, which flustered Tina while Ellie was confused. Tina eagerly asked if she could learn many things. Later, Howard requested Alan watch over Ellie, revealing she was Groan's granddaughter and a descendant of the Walker family, longtime retainers of the Howards. Graham approved. Alan suspected they wanted Ellie in the Royal Academy too, but she admitted she lacked magic talent and feared being a burden. When asked what she wanted, she simply said she'd do whatever was expected of her. Alan asked again, "Do you want to join the Royal Academy?" Ellie answered that of course she did. She wanted to stay by Tina's side as her personal maid. Alan was excited to teach her. Soon a black cat named Anko showed up, said to belong to the professor who'd recommended him, which impressed them. The next day, Alan visited Tina's room, but she told him to drop the formalities and just call her Tina. She also asked him to always be honest, even if it hurt. Alan agreed and warned he wouldn't sugarcoat things. Before their lessons, he gave her a written test and explained the entrance exam had 3 parts: written, interview, and magic. Though magic was key, he needed to check her academic level first. Tina asked if the written test changed yearly and mentioned hearing how hard it was. Alan explained the school reused question types from decades of archives that no one seemed to notice. He handed her a test and asked her to try. That night in his room, Alan graded it and was surprised. Tina's intellect rivaled Lydia, a former student who had once overwhelmed him. Lydia was the Duke of Leinster's daughter, a swordmaster, top graduate, and Phoenix spell wielder. Academically, Tina was on par. The next day in the study room, he returned her test, and she smiled she passed. Alan told Tina she was ready for the written exam and might even top it. She thanked him, but he wanted to shorten the prep time and shift to hands-on magic right away, saying she wouldn't know her limits unless she tried. Tina had tried and failed before, of saying she let down many teachers. Alan understood. He'd recently felt the same. Tina was surprised since her professor praised Alan and said Lady Lydia became renowned thanks to him. But Alan said people only talked about him because he put up with Lydia's mood swings and his mana had dropped from last year. The university accepted him thinking he could handle her, not because of skill. He knew the Royal Academy was brutal, with half the students failing to graduate on time. Before they started, he asked if Tina truly wanted to attend or just felt obligated. She replied it was out of love for plants. Since childhood, she'd admired legendary spells from a storybook her mother read. Alan said such magic no longer existed, but he'd do all he could to help if she stayed determined. Tina thanked him for believing in her. Just then, Ellie walked over with candles and nearly tripped again, but Alan caught her and saved the candles with magic. Tina, irritated by how close Alan and Ellie were, told him to back off. As class began, Alan asked about the basic elements of magic. Tina explained there were 7, like fire, water, and wind, and each person was naturally aligned with one affecting their strengths. When Alan asked about the Howard family's affinity, Tina said it was likely water and wind, which could be combined into ice. Alan then questioned the concept of harmony, mentioning a spell he used in the carriage that mixed water, wind, and fire, elements that shouldn't work together if the theory were true. He challenged Tina to think beyond set affinities and try using all 7 elements on the candles. He asked Ellie which elements she could use, and she managed to light one candle with fire, then succeeded again with wind, impressing Alan. He praised her and predicted she could ace the entrance exam, which shocked her. Then Tina tried, but her spell didn't work, though Alan sensed her mana. He told her not to apologize, he just needed to understand what was wrong. To demonstrate, he lit all the candles in various colors, leaving them both amazed. Meanwhile, at Lydia's home, she read Alan's letter saying he'd stay at the Howard estate until spring and hoped she'd wish him luck in proving himself. Alan kept teaching them magic and asked why humans could use it. Tina said it was thanks to mana and years of study. Alan gazed out and said that while science had progressed and more people used magic, fewer could cast high-level spells. Noble houses were known for powerful spells like Firebird and Ice Wolf, but only a few could still perform them, and their strength was fading. Tina, who had lived through centuries of magical reform, wondered if all their efforts were pointless. Alan said no, it was just that they traded depth for numbers. He believed humans could use magic thanks to invisible elemental spirits. Tina disagreed, saying studies proved otherwise, like how fire spells didn't get stronger near volcanoes. But Alan questioned those results, since they couldn't measure spirits in the first place, though he admitted Tina knew more. She thought he was being sly. Alan then said spirits didn't care about elements, but most magic only called on one. He asked, would you enjoy doing the same thing forever if you were a spirit? They said no, so he tried rewriting spells to leave space for change and told them to try too. When he asked Ellie to combine fire and wind, she failed at first and felt useless. But Alan encouraged her to relax and try again. And she finally pulled it off, feeling proud even if it was a small step. Then it was Tina's turn. She tried casting a spell but failed twice, leaving her discouraged. That night, Alan went to the library and was stunned by the massive collection. While he searched for something that might help Tina, she arrived with her maid, who warned her not to stay too long. Tina picked out a book, and her maid commented she resembled her mother, who also loved books, but unlike her, Tina couldn't use magic. The maid brought up Tina's new teacher, noting his darker aura, but recalled Tina defending his kindness in the carriage. Alan overheard everything. After Tina left, the maid noticed him and introduced herself as Shelley, the head maid. She asked Alan for help. Tina, she explained, was smart and hardworking, but past tutors abandoned her due to her lack of magic, leaving her hurt yet still determined to enter the Royal Academy. Shelley knew Tina looked up to Alan and Lydia and hoped he'd support her. Alan assured her he would. The next day, Tina got upset, thinking Alan and Ellie went out together, but he clarified he'd just been picking vegetables with Ellie. Ellie, nervous about Tina's reaction, asked how she could hang out with Alan alone. She then admitted she liked Alan a lot, which surprised but pleased Tina. Ellie said she loved him after her grandparents and herself, which made Alan laugh. He joked they acted like sisters, though he guessed Tina was the older one, boosting her ego. In truth, Ellie was a year older, but Tina never admitted she acted like it, frustrating Ellie, who threatened not to let her share the bed during storms. Alan laughed again and both girls scolded him. During training, Alan held Ellie's hand to help her feel her mana. She felt warmth and energy, and he told her it was dark mana. She failed to cast a spell, but Alan reassured her it was normal. Tina also couldn't use magic, and Alan encouraged her to try another approach. He then summoned a cat, impressing them both. When they both wanted to touch it, Alan summoned another so they'd each have one, making them happy. Later that day, Graham gave Alan a letter. Thinking it was from Lydia, he opened it and found an angry message asking why he went to Howard. She told him he should have asked her for help if he needed a job. She'd met Tina a few times, understood the situation, and though she thought success was unlikely, she still believed he might pull through. Lydia warned him not to rely on past experiences and scolded him for hiding something about the Royal Mage test. She said she'd be at the Royal Academy exam, and if he ran, she'd hunt him down and destroy him. Then she asked him to send her weekly letters. After Alan finished reading, they went to the training room. Tina asked what Lydia wanted, and Alan said she was mad he hadn't written. Ellie saw Lydia's care as meaningful, while Tina believed Lydia just missed him. Alan didn't think it was that sweet. Training resumed, Ellie managed to use magic, but Tina failed again. Then Alan saw an ice plane fly upward, which shocked him. He returned to the library, convinced Tina's spells were close to working. If modern books failed, he checked the old ones. While searching, he noticed a strange symbol, then left and someone was waiting. They went to her room, she gave him a drink, and he called her Miss Ellie, which annoyed her. She told him to drop the formalities and asked if it was just a training thing. When she realized he was lying, she made him say her name again and relaxed once he did. She told Alan to always call her that, though he thought letting a strange man into her room at night was risky. She didn't mind. She mentioned her grandparents recently called, expressed their love, and hugged her tight, which shocked her. They'd apparently been talking about her. Alan gently reminded her of the talent he and Shelley had once discussed, though he struggled to make proper use of it himself. He encouraged her to tell her family how much they meant to her, since their support was her greatest strength. Shifting back, Alan told Ellie his own family had been there for him. Ellie then shared that her father died when she was young and she came to live with the Howards. She remembered arriving, snow falling, and a girl chasing after her. Tina, who had recently lost her mother, was also dealing with fear. Both girls were alike, but Tina, the Walker Harris, felt her efforts fell flat. She had been overtaken by Ellie at the academy and feared she'd be left behind. Trying to forge her own way, she asked Mr. Howard to let her join the Royal Academy. Alan saw her request as bold and admired her potential. He told her to believe in herself, which lifted her spirits. The next day, Ellie displayed impressive magic, which discouraged Tina. Alan then asked about Ellie's control over the other elements, but she admitted she feared lightning and light. Still, with Anko's help in the dark, she felt she might master them soon. Alan asked Tina to try casting a spell, but she failed completely. Confused, she wondered why, but Alan assured them they'd just try another formula. He later told Howard that Tina's mana reserves were massive, though he couldn't promise she passed the exam. Howard thought about discouraging her, but Alan insisted it would be wrong if she truly wanted to join, noting her academic strength could still get her in. Howard understood but feared she faced scorn at the academy as a noble without magic. He didn't want her to suffer like he had. He asked Alan to act if things didn't improve. Though reluctant, Alan agreed. Back in training, Tina kept failing. Alan offered to help and encouraged her to keep trying. That night, he stayed up analyzing her formula but found no issues. The next morning, Tina woke to find him sleeping near her with a book. When she asked if he'd read it for her, he denied it, but she saw through the lie. He'd skipped breakfast and read late into the night to support her. She asked how many spells he practiced with her and how often he helped her train. Alan told her not to worry, he loved studying magic. Realizing he wasn't angry, Tina apologized, feeling crushed by her failures. In tears, she confessed she loved and admired him, and Ellie too, and how his praise made her reflect on her own guilt. In that moment, her power suddenly erupted with freezing energy, nearly injuring Alan. Ellie rushed in, but he told her not to interfere. Alan told Ellie to fetch Mr. Graham and tried to stop the ice storm with magic, but failed, choked by the pressure. Reluctantly, he called out to Tina, asking if she could hear him. Tina, trapped behind the ice, listened to his voice in confusion. Alan warned that his power was surging wildly and would soon kill him. She asked what to do. He said he'd link their energy, even though it was risky and uncomfortable, and asked for her permission. Once connected, Alan searched for her through the link and sensed an immense mana within her, possibly greater than Lydia's. He then heard Tina blaming herself, feeling useless and powerless. Her emotions overwhelmed him just as an ice dragon formed behind her, showing she was trying to help. Alan took his chance, summoned a firebird, and melted the ice, revealing Tina. He ran to her and hugged her, relieved. As the dragon faded, it said Alan had met the final key, leaving him confused. He asked Tina if she heard anything, but she only mentioned feeling odd from their link. Realizing they were still connected, Alan ended the bond and was about to go to Ellie, but Tina asked him to stay and hold her, saying he was her only teacher. Alan stayed. Ellie soon arrived with Graham to check on Alan and Tina. She was glad for Tina, while Alan recalled Leah's warning not to repeat this with anyone else and thought he needed a good excuse. He nearly fainted, but Graham caught him. In Alan's room, he and Tina were concerned. Ellie left to get tea. Tina asked if his condition was tied to their bond. Alan said not to worry, but admitted bonding made him share thoughts and feelings. Tina got upset, saying she heard him call her Princess Poison again and wanted an answer. Alan tried shifting focus, explaining he could influence the mana of those he bonded with and that reconnecting later was easy. When Tina asked if he'd done it before, he said yes, with his sister Karen and with Lydia when he had no other choice. He warned it was risky, since it let him use someone else's energy, and asked her to keep it secret, even from Ellie. Later, as night came, they moved to a new magic training area. Alan, impressed, asked Tina to test her power there. Tina lit the candles, releasing a surge of power that left everyone stunned. Alan suspected the dragon inside her no longer interfered and that their magical bond may have shifted some control to her. He praised her and said it was time to learn how to manage that strength. Overwhelmed, Tina hugged him in tears, grateful she could finally use magic. Alan reassured her and called her amazing. Ellie also cried with joy and thanked Tina. Alan believed a bit more training would let Tina fully master her magic, and then they'd both be ready for the Royal Academy. He planned to tell Walter, but Graham reminded him Walter was still away. Alan missed sharing the news and wrote a letter to the professor. Later, the professor received it, just as one of Alan's friends visited. Joking about Alan's frequent debt letters, they read it together. They reported Tina's breakthrough and urgently requested military-grade ice-resistant scrolls before she froze herself. Alan's friend laughed, but the professor knew fulfilling the request wouldn't be easy. Who would have thought Alan would manage to show off the little princess's power? It was just like him. Back in his room, he kept flipping through books with no luck until one showed a familiar symbol, making him think back. In training, Alan asked Ellie to light candles with dark magic. She failed at first, but he encouraged her to focus and recall how she felt touching Anko. That helped her succeed, which lifted Alan's spirits. He then had Tina try. She produced a huge burst of magic, and he told her to mentally control it. Since Ellie was progressing well, Alan suggested they move to combat training, which made Tina jealous. Ellie appreciated Alan's kindness, but Tina demanded the same. Alan argued magic training didn't allow for softness and scolded Tina for nearly destroying the ceiling. Tina fired back, saying his lack of attention was the problem. That reminded Alan of someone, Lydia, who hadn't written in a while. Lost in thought, Tina snapped him out of it, and both girls pushed him to share what was on his mind. Alan remembered Graham once saying he was good with young women, which he quickly denied. Then Ellie began firing magic at Graham, who dodged flawlessly. Alan was surprised by Graham's precision, and Tina explained that the walkers trained daily to improve their service. Graham then attacked, but Ellie blocked every move, making Alan proud. He told Tina it was her turn. She lit the candles and nearly controlled her power, though the task unnerved her. Later in Graham's room, he praised Tina's growth and thanked Alan, but Alan credited their efforts. When Alan asked about Walter, Graham said he was busy, but Alan suspected he was avoiding them. Alan asked how Walter felt about Tina learning magic, and Graham answered all he could. Alan then brought up books with matching marks and asked Graham who owned them, but he didn't know. Back in his room, Alan read the marked books, thinking Tina's power might be linked. He recalled the dragon's words about a key and wondered if Tina was the one, not him. Then Tina and Ellie came in. Tina claimed Ellie couldn't sleep, but Ellie exposed the truth. It was Tina who was scared of her book. Alan told them to head to bed so their training wouldn't suffer, but they refused and stayed in his room. He offered them warm drinks, which made them admire him even more. Asking for silence to continue his research, Alan soon realized all books with the same symbol shared a link. Turning around, he saw Tina and Ellie asleep, which deepened his resolve to help them enter the Royal Academy. Later in the training hall, Graham informed Alan that Walter wanted to speak. Alan quickly agreed and told the girls to rest. At Walter's office, Walter revealed Tina wouldn't be allowed to take the entrance exam. Alan disagreed, insisting Tina would excel. Walter claimed the matter was out of his hands and didn't want Tina to be a burden, angering Alan. He argued that Tina's mother, Princess Rosa, had faith in her daughter's magic potential. Alan showed him books on ice magic, all bearing Rosa's mark as proof. Shocked, Walter reconsidered. Alan apologized for being blunt, but Walter told him to stand tall, touched by his kindness. Though hesitant, Walter agreed on one condition. Back in the hall, Alan told the girls that passing the final test would earn them a shot at the academy. Tina asked what the test was. Alan explained Walter would appoint a strong mage to fight in his place. The girls were scared, but Alan reassured them, saying he believed in them and was proud, leaving them flustered but deeply thankful. If you're enjoying the journey of this series, please hit that like and subscribe button and turn on that notification bell so you don't miss any updates. All of your support helps me to keep bringing more high-quality recaps.